Mr. Chevik for his briefing. I now give the floor to Ms. Tatiana Montyan. Good morning, and once again, ladies and gentlemen. I do hope you can hear me. I listened very carefully to everything that was said by the speakers before me, and I would like to say to you this. I am completely certain that you all know very well that never, ever, ever the authorities in Kiev had the intention of implementing either the first package of Minsk agreements and much less so the second Minsk agreements. This is simply a pause to be able to say, yes, we're going to implement that. In the meantime, we'll receive weapons from NATO, our armed forces will become stronger, and we do hope that in some time later we will be able to get back the rebellious republics by force. It's not only they do not want to talk to the republics, and this was said by Zelensky directly just now. He said that he sees no reason to have dialogue with Donetsk and Luhansk. They do not want to have conversations with the civil society, even within Ukraine. People who do not want to go to Europe or NATO, people who are against the coup d'etat, who want to live in peace and friendship in Russia and other countries. These people, not only are they not represented within Ukrainian politics at all, they are being criminally prosecuted. I'm a criminal lawyer. Ruslan Kataba simply posted a video on YouTube saying that he is in favor of peace and against war in Donbass. And he has been trial since 2015, and the accusation is high treason. I went to Donbass personally to visit one of the commanders, now dead, Mr. Moskovoi, so as to take a detainee back. And I saw a huge number of people whose only fault is that they're against Maidan, against coup d'etat, against NATO and Europe. And you now want to tell me that those people who sit in judgment over other peoples because they have placed a like in social networks, people who closed all opposition channels, who are prosecuting all opposition politics, that these people are going to hold conversation with Donetsk and Luhansk. It is very clear that this is in principle a possibility. This is a matter and antimatter. They annihilate each other. So what is the problem? What was the difficulty to provide a special status in the past 5 years? They are not going to do that because any different thinking in Ukraine is being squashed. People who are in Ukraine against Maidan, against a coup d'etat, against war, the enemies of the people. They have no right to take the floors anywhere at all. They have no political parties. They have no civil society associations. They have no right to speak in their country. They don't have that right at all. And of course, even after that, how can you ask that Kiev be talking to Lugansk and Donetsk? I am sure you understand that this will never, ever, ever happen. One of the previous speakers said, well, that I regret that despite the efforts of Germany and France, the Kiev regime does not want to implement the Kiev agreements. I'm certain that the West allows the Kiev regime to non-implement. If this were not the case, all of the Minsk agreements would have been implemented a long time ago. Please do not say that Kiev is an independent entity here, that Ukraine is independent. It is a colony of a collective West where everything is decided by the people who came in from the outside, who organized the Maidan and the coup d'etat and plunged my country into slavery. And these are the same people stand in the way of implementing the Minsk agreement. And they will not allow the agreements to be implemented. I'm certain of it, because the real goal of the West, despite all the peace-loving speeches I've heard, including here, is to make sure that Kiev attacks the republics and that Russia is bogged into this war. No explanation for the Western hysterics when they say that Russia is about to invade. And Biden just said, I just listened to it as we were having this meeting. That's what he said. There is no other goal that the West has. The only goal is to organize war. If this were not the case, then the puppet government of Ukraine would have been compelled to implement the Minsk agreements a long time ago. And since this is not taking place, then we can state one thing and one thing only. The West wants a war with Russia. And it wants that war to take place on the territory of Ukraine. We are not a chessboard. We are a people of Ukraine. And the people in the unrecognized republics are simply pawns in political games. There's nothing else that can be said here. And I am sure that you yourselves understand that very well. I'm very happy that I had the opportunity to say this to your face. I am convinced that you will lead the events to a war. The events today in the republics when they were shelled throughout the contact line have convinced me of that completely. Ukraine, the Kiev regime, for almost 8 years have been shelling about 100,000 people using heavy artillery. OSCE have the moniker of blind observers in the territories react to this not at all. That side which is under the control of the Kiev regime, children are not killed. Not a single child has been killed, and buildings are standing up. This only happens in the unrecognized republic, and I visited them personally. I am telling you this about firsthand because I traveled down the entire contact line, and I saw how peaceful civilians, unprotected, vulnerable people are being killed. The people who did not manage to leave, their old people, their women with children, or their handicapped. Those who could have left the area a long time ago. So these long-suffering people are hostages there, and they're in the number of 100,000. And the entire Europe is, for the 8th year running, looking duplicitously at the suffering of these people, whilst at the same time saying that there is no alternative to the Minsk agreements. Well, fine, then compel your marionettes from the Kiev regime to implement them, and please, or stop saying that there is no alternative to them. I thank you for your attention.
За ее брифинг.
I thank Ms. Tatiana Montyan for her briefing.